What is this? What do you think this is? It's a cane! Like what they use in the contractors. No, it's not. It isn't. It isn't. Of course it isn't. It is a tripod. As mentioned in the planning stage, the tripod is where we put the camera. We were able to use this for our production because we use this in our interviewees. So it allowed us to have a stable camera to conduct the interviews, which is conventional for expository type documentary, because in observational mode, it's like a shaky camera is conventional, but we didn't want to have that because we wanted the focus to be on the interviewee themselves. So for our production, we had 2 tripods so we could get 2 different angles, and that was helpful, although me being an idiot in the first one, because it was really hard because I was alone and I was kind of like, it was my first time I've done it, so I was very, very panicked and stuff. So unfortunately, I forgot to press record on the other angle, so we only were able to have one angle for the politician criminologist interview, which is why you only saw one angle for them. So yeah, so this tripod was used to hold the camera, and this really helped us in our production because as I mentioned before, it allowed us to have a stable shot, so it allowed us and not have to really worry about holding the camera still or our hands aching, so we were able to record it straight. Also, we intended to use, and some of the footage that we used, like the footages of London and the different streets, particularly London, the location London, we were able to use a tripod to film different montage footage, and we intended to use the tripod to film like all montage footage. However, since the shots of New York and LA were outside of the country, and I had just gone and like, it was for half term and I had gone, I didn't want to have to bring the tripod with me, so I ended up just bringing the camera. So that's why I had to do a lot of stabilization during the post-production stage. So that's one way that we should have improved on using the tripod. Now, the tripod also was able to be used during our research and planning stages for our videos, to record our videos, because as with everything, we put the camera on top here and it allowed us to record videos, which is important for us because in order to kind of present the information in a different way and make it more appealing to our audience, through the use of the camera, and it allowed us to kind of have the camera still while we to create a video, so it helped us in the research and planning to create the videos, which was important for our personality to be expressed on the blog, specifically with like the different green screen footage, like the weather forecast that we did for London. So the tripod was used to hold that camera, which without that would have been very shaky and it wouldn't have been very appealing to our audience. The next piece of equipment I'll be showing you today is the reflector. Now this reflector is what we intended to use for our production. See? Although in our research stage we initially said that we would use different light, like actual light source, like soft boxes and like LED lights or Patterson's lights, stuff like that, red heads and all these things. So although we said that we would need it, when we were during our planning, and we actually meant to use that, but then when discussing it with our media technician and talking to him about going to the different locations like London and Lincoln and London and Lincoln, especially since we're only 2 people, he said, especially London, and especially in the Lincoln interview, I was alone, so he was like, it would be very hard for you to carry all the different lighting equipment. So he suggested that we use the reflector instead of the lighting, because it's kind of to push the sun. We did intend to use the reflector when we were filming our production, however, we actually didn't, and that's one of my regrets. I think we should have used whatever light equipment that we did have to film our interview, because the lighting was one of our very weak points of our production that ended up making it not look so cinematic, and made it more look more like a television documentary. So I believe that we really should have used soft boxes and all the kind of lighting equipment that we had, especially for the one in the school with Frederica that we did, because we decided not to use it because we wanted all the shots to kind of have the same lighting, because it would not look, to kind of show that there is a continuity in different coloring, but also that So it's not, because we wanted them to all kind of look similar, not different. So we decided not to have the lighting for Fred Erica's interview. However, because it was in school, I think we really should have used all the lighting, specifically like 3-point lighting, which is very conventional for like interview type shots and all these things. So that's one thing why I can't really say how we used it, because we ended up not really using it. Although in our planning and research, we stated that we would, and in our planning we stated that we could use this. The lighting would have allowed us to create industry standard production, and it's also more conventional for documentaries and independent film to do have this type of lighting, because although the budget is low, they still have good lighting. So it wouldn't be top notch like expert field like conglomerate, but it would be they would ensure that there would be very good lighting, especially for cinematic production. So overall, lighting is our weakest point that I think we should have really ensured that we used. Now, the most important piece of equipment that we used for our production is the dun 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 dun. It's a binoculars! No, it's not. It is a camera. This Panasonic camera, to be exact. Here you go. This is the main piece of equipment for our production, because it allowed us to actually film the footage of our production. So you see, here we go. Not only this, but through the use of the camera, as I mentioned, we were able to generate hype in our blog, because we were able to create videos that showed our personality as well, as part of Gauntlet's making and doing culture, Gauntlet's belief. So we were able to use this camera to generate hype before actual production, and to provide our audience with interesting and eye-catching as well as entertaining videos, and that would kind of promote our production. So with this camera, we were able to film different shots. We were able to pre-program the coloring of the shots through the use of white balance, as well as iris, so just the coloring to make sure it's good enough and more of a decent quality, and everything. How to set the white balance, and the best way to do it, you put the paper in front. Now it's quite hard to like do it while holding the camera, but you put the white paper in front, you press this, you press the paper button, so you putting the white paper in front, and then once it stops blinking you pull it out, and that's how you get the white balance. The coloring can also be changed through kind of iris, so you can kind of adjust the brightness through iris. And like initially I intended to have more of like depth of field and like all these things, but with this camera I was unable to do that, or kind of adjust the exposure, but this is how it's done through iris. So as you can see, it's quite bright when it's full, but with the iris you can lower that. So this is the main ones that we were able to use. I mean, of course you could adjust the shutter speed, which is there, yeah, and it would 1/50 would be like the best one to use, the one that's mostly used. So that's how we use this. So those are the main things that we did use. We used these cameras to film our interviewees, and we were initially supposed to use it as well to film our Vox Pop footage. However, as mentioned previously many times, we were unable to do that, so they ended up just using their phones or their own cameras and sending it to me. Overall, like we were successfully able to use this camera, and I was lucky enough to be able to bring it with me to a trip that I went to the States, where we were able to film footage of the States. However, although we were able to use it, I think we should have done more research into the cameras available in school, because I think if we use a DSLR, maybe the quality of our production the quality of the videos of our production would have been to a higher standard, and we would have been able to like kind of experiment more, because there's only certain settings in this camera that we could use. It would also make it kind of look more artistic and creative and experimental, and it would have, which is more conventional for independent productions, and it would have made it look more cinematic as well. However, although we were able to use this to get good footage, which I think we did get some good footage, I think we should have experimented more with the camera. So especially in the interviews, we should have made an effort to kind of experiment on the angles. So instead of just getting one front and one on the side, we could have kind of adjust maybe one looking up, or one looking up like this, or like one looking down, looking up. We could have done that to kind of show, their dominance and like connote their importance and their intelligence. So like to kind of promote more of like the Marxist reading, wherein, you know, keeping those in power, because with that angle it could easily be shown. So that's one way where we could have improved. So we could have, and also like especially with different montage footage, we could have done more creative looking shots and from different, yeah, as I said, different angles. We could have done more like pans or tracks or all these different things, because looking back at our production now, it's very simplistic. But without this camera, we would not have been able to film any footage. So it was still very important for production, and we did take advantage of this. However, like in our research and planning, I think we should have used this camera more, because I think we should have made more videos. And even like me with the evaluation, I think I could have taken more fully taken advantage of the fact that we were able to have a camera to film more videos, because although we do have a few videos and we use different softwares like Powtoon to create more videos, there's still a lot of text in those videos. So at least this one would allow us to like creatively express those ideas that we had, especially in our planning and research stages, when there's heaps and loads of information that we wanted to show. We could have taken fully advantage of this and used more of that. But overall, the camera allowed us to film this footage and allowed us to create videos, which would then be uploaded to YouTube and then posted on our blog to show our personality in the blog itself and to generate interest for our production and create hype. So, and kind of look to make our production kind of more like a real world production, so the blog was able to help us do that. So if we used more videos, it would have been more eye-catching, more attention, like there would have been more attention and generate more interest from our target audience, specifically because they are millennials and fox thinkers who are used to digital technologies and all these things. So we should have really taken more advantage of the camera. We should have researched maybe possibly into another camera, but overall this was very helpful and what we really needed for our production. We're back here in the recording studio, as you might have seen during the planning stage of our production. So overall, we were successfully able to use the recording studio to record our voice of God as well as the copy, who was also the voice of God in our production. By using the recording studio, we were able to ensure that the quality of the sound was not echoey, and it was a very high quality. However, although in the end we were able to produce high quality sound, so our audio for the voice of God and the copy was of an industry standard, we went through a lot of experimentation throughout the whole process due to the fact that it was our first time using the recording studio. So we actually had to re-record some audio, as the first time we did it, and it's not so much of the recording studio itself, but it was because of the quality. No, not the quality, but it was more of the way she was reciting the advertisement in the radio advert. It was too kind of happy and too promoty, which is unconventional for documentary film. So we had to re-record it to ensure that it was not so over the top, you know, because it had to be just normal, kind of how it would normally be heard. So very simple and just straight to the point. So, and also, like when we were recording for the first time we got the audio, it was a bit echoey and we don't know why. So we had to re-record it, and we were able to eventually get the right sound. So overall, we were able to use the recording studio very well, and it actually really helped us in our production.